an interlude in the good ship practice. We're traveling around meeting people interested in working with practice here. So I'll let our guests today introduce themselves first of all. So Thomas, over to you. And can you tell us something about where you are right now?
Yes, thanks for being here. And here actually is Bochum, Germany, which is 500,000 people town in the western of Germany. And I'm sitting at my home place where I'm living, and even after pandemics also working sometimes.
And what do you work on? What do you do?
I'm a professor of philosophy, not here in Bochum, my living town, but in a nearby town, Hagen, at Fernuniversität. Fernuniversität is the name of the largest and only state-owned distance teaching university in the German-speaking world, with I don't know, 70,000 students, and there I'm working at the university at the Institute of Philosophy, and I'm head of the chair for practical philosophy. So we are doing mostly social philosophy, political philosophy, with let's say historical and theoretical take on phenomenology and French philosophy. So these are our resources in doing social and political philosophy mostly.
Natalia, it's over to you, right? Next question.
Yes, thank you. So Thomas, I wanted to ask you how did you first encounter practice theory?
This was a fellow sociologist at my university, at Fernuniversität, and of course I didn't know something about practice and practices and the words and the terminology and so on, but I ignored completely that there was something like a whole field of research which was the name practice theory. And then while he was new to our university, and he made connections, and he said, yeah, wouldn't you be interested to have some to get a research project together between sociology and philosophy, and you are doing phenomenology. That's very interesting. I'm doing practice theory, and so on. I said, yeah, okay. And so I couldn't tell him, I don't know what you are talking about. So I said, oh, that's interesting. In what direction would you think we could do together such stuff? So and when I went back to my office, I thought, oh, I should read some stuff of these people who are doing practice theory. So this is contingently how it began, and we really worked together, and we realized that there are connections between phenomenology and practice theory, even if it depends on what type of practice theory you do. Historically, whereas Tchardsky is relying on Heidegger very often, Bourdieu in his early times is relying on some Merleau-Ponty stuff, even if he's criticizing Sartre and so on. So there are historical relations and systematical, because both type of theories are working with a strong idea of bodies doing something and not heads or minds and so on. So there are commonalities which you can exploit by further research, and what we have been done since a couple of years. Yeah.
Interesting. I love the first encounter story. And but what in particular attracted you to practice theory?
Yeah, as I said, it was mainly this kind of materialist idea. That is, both in relation, always in relation to phenomenology, both types of theories are in some way first anti-dualist theories and materialist theories. They are materialist and anti-dualist in a different way because they have different epistemological preconceptions and so on. But this puts both theories in a common confrontation with traditionalist dualist theories in philosophy. First of all, analytic philosophy of mind and types of that thing, philosophies of that type, and phenomenology always has battled for further integration of bodily perceptions, reactions, and actions in describing how we are generating sense and meaning in the world. And the sense and meaning are not something we have in our minds or in our heads or etc., but they are processed by moving bodies. So this is a phenomenological idea and idea shared by almost any practice theories. So this is what we have been interested most in.
Mm-hmm. And following up on the ideas, I wanted to ask, what ideas are you currently working with? I guess practice theoretical ideas, but also phenomenological ideas.
Yeah, actually, I'm mostly interested in something like, I don't know if the word really exists in English, situatedness. So, and I guess that perhaps with respect to situatedness, practice theory could learn something from phenomenology, because at my particular view, many practice theories are interested in bodies proceeding for collective kind of actions in certain habits and so on. And they have difficulties to explain the interruption of practices, the recombination of practices, the emergence of new practices and so on, which presupposes perhaps something like a first-person perspective from which there is necessary a new solution to a new situation and so on, which is not always already prescribed by a certain practice already existing. And in phenomenology, you have a whole tradition of using the term of situation in Heidegger, Sartre, Merleau-Ponty, and so on, for describing a set, the totality of possible meanings for a person being situated. This is one idea. The second idea is that in feminist epistemology, we have since the 1970s had the whole discussion about situated knowledge, Donna Haraway and others. And they pointed out that the particularism of a perspective is a necessary precondition for what we call the objectivity of knowledge. So, and what I try to do is to work with these both concepts, situated knowledge and être en situation, as Sartre would have called it, to develop a kind of phenomenal political or politicized phenomenology of first-person experience situated in also in political conflicts as post-colonial feminists or whatever battles we have to fight nowadays. I don't know if that's very conceivable in this rapid way to sketch it out, but that's the way I'm working actually.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, and I'm handing over to Elizabeth.
Okay, so I'm wearing a hat. Actually, we're all wearing hats. So I'm wearing a kind of old style English anthropologist's hat, and that's the kind of role that I'm going to take. It looks like you're tourists or on a boat somewhere, but I'm an anthropologist.
I'm on holidays.
Yeah. So I'm curious about tribes and the kind of groups that you're part of, and it's great to have met you. And you mentioned that you got introduced, or you fell into practice theory via a colleague. So I'm curious who else you're working with, or are you working on your own with these nice ideas about in-person experience and situatedness and practice, or do you feel like you're part of a group in some way? Perhaps you could tell us about that.
Yeah. You feel always alone somehow.
It goes with your topic, yeah.
At least me, yeah. Sometimes at least you feel alone with your thinkings and what you're experimenting with and so on. But no, of course, there are people around. We have not such a thing as a whole working group like the ethnologist could really observe as people, many people sitting around gathering and
doing
some rituals over time. But there are networks, of course. There are networks. Some networks going to sociologist of my own university, Frank Hillebrand, to mention, who worked for a couple of years or even more than 10, 15 years in practice sociology. And some other guys working on the, let's say, half philosophy, half anthropology, with some different, not so much sociological concepts of practice, but more, let's say, post-Marxist concepts of practice. And then there is the whole family, if you want, of German-speaking phenomenologists. There is a society of Deutsche Gesellschaft für Phänomenologische Forschung, which means the German Society for Phenomenological Research. That's it, yeah. I had the honor to have been the president for 2 years, a couple of years ago. So there is a network of people who not always doing research together, but as at least are sharing concepts and sharing research news and gather together.
So one idea about our map and this little tour and chats with people like you is to kind of extend the network or make connections between the map, which obviously you're doing already in yourself. But is there anywhere you would like us to go next? I mean, maybe we can find people who are not yet on the map. Maybe we can get them on the map. Do you have any suggestions for us? Who would you like us to talk to?
I don't know, but I'm missing French people. When I looked at the map with this possible question in mind, I thought, I would like to recommend somebody from France to you because of my story of being related to French philosophy for a long time and so on. And I looked at the map and there's nobody, even not the tomb of Pierre Bourdieu or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know people in France working in practice theory. So perhaps there is nobody, but I don't think so. So I would like to encourage you to find French people, but I have no name, unfortunately.
That sounds more like a mission.
That's a challenge. We can do that. We like challenges. That's great. So when we go to France, we'd like to take a souvenir from our little trip to visit you. What would you like to give us to take on our journey?
I thought about the duck rabbit, this little image you perhaps know, where you, depending on how you intend to see it, you will see a duck or a rabbit. Yes. But once you are clinched to a certain idea, you have difficulties to get back to the other image. And I thought that would be an image which is could be an example for certain epistemological ideas which are shared between practice theory and phenomenology, because Wittgenstein, of course, is using it for explaining how meanings depend from their use in Sprachspiel. Yeah. And Merleau-Ponty is using it to explain what the phenomenological notion of intentionality means. Because intentionality means we have always a meaningful relation to things, and things have a meaningful relation to our our inhabiting them. And intentionality are not intentions in the analytical sense, but are meaning relations. And I think this duck rabbit is perhaps a symbol.
That would be
for that.
That would be absolutely great. So we have to find a French duck rabbit expert, something. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Of course, I'm afraid that French people often are eating ducks and rabbits and stuff, and also perhaps you don't find them. But yeah,
I was trying to figure out what the intentions of the ship's cat's going to be towards this duck rabbit encounter, but we'll find out. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. It was an absolute pleasure.